Hey guys, it's Jeremy at Online Broadcast Blueprint. I wanted to come on here today. I have like three or four folks that I'm emailing back and forth with. By the way, thank you for your emails. I appreciate it. Please email me radiovalleymt@gmail.com if you have questions or want to talk or argue or whatever. Shoot me an email. I'd love to talk. But I've got three or four folks that I've been talking back and forth with about licensing, about Live 365, about their various plans. So what I want to do today is I want to go on to Live 365, and we're going to talk a little bit more about licensing, but I want to show you the plans that are available through Live 365. So I want to share a screen here, and here we go. So let me show you. I'm under the billing tab here. So this will give you an idea of what we're looking at. This is the dashboard for my classic guitar rock station. And right now I'm using the basic no ads. Let me switch over. We'll start with the advertising package. And what this means is when you sign up for Live 365 and you pick a plan, it defaults to a plan with advertisements. So for instance, the first plan that I started with, which I think most people start with when you're starting out, is this basic plan. It's the Broadcast One plan with ads, $59 a month. Now, what this means is 4 minutes an hour, you need to play network ads. Okay, and that's pretty simple process. As you're putting your clock wheel together, you select the spots where you want the commercials to go. 4 minutes. You could do that in one shot of 4 minutes, or two shots of 2 minutes, or four shots of 1 minute. However you do that in your clock wheel, it's up to you, but you'd have to run 4 minutes of commercials per hour. Okay. That basic package is $59 a month. And here's what you get with that. You get 1,500 monthly total listener hours. Okay. So let's talk about what that means really quick. Total listener hours. It's basically just what it sounds like. Okay. So let's say you've got, well, there's a couple ways to look at it. If you've got 1,500 people that listen to your station 1 hour a month, that's going to exhaust your 1,500 total listener hours. Okay. If you have, 10 people listening a day over the course of a 30-day month, right? That's 300 listeners. Each one of them could listen up to 5 hours that month, right? And it would equal the 1,500 total listener hours. So that's exactly what it means. Total listener hours. Now, typically, you know how people listen. You'll have some people that listen for hours and hours during the course of a day. You have a lot of people that pop in and listen for, 20 minutes once a week. But basically, you have 1,500 total listener hours. Okay. You also get 50 gigs of storage. Storage, this is all the things you're uploading, all your music, any other audio files, even JPEGs or pictures, that you want to display. All of that goes into your storage, right? It includes music licensing for US, Canada, and Mexico. Basic analytics. Okay, so that shows you, the basic analytics, right? Okay, I won't get into that right now. Standard support. Now, with standard support, that means there's a 24-hour first response. So you basically open a ticket, and within 24 hours, you'll hear back from them. This gives you one customizable stream, AAC or MP3 up to 192 kilobits. Okay, that's the basic plan. Now, here's what happens. And this has happened lots of times. So this month, I'm still in Broadcast One because I haven't had enough listeners to bump me up into the next level. But several times on Radio Valley, you exhaust your monthly listener hours you've got, which is a good thing. Means you got more people listening than you can handle with this plan. So it automatically bumps you to the next plan. Okay. And then they prorate that difference. Let's say the last 4 days of the month, they had to bump me to the next plan up. They'll prorate those 4 days at the cost of the next plan up. So just for an example, broadcast 2 gets you 3,500 total listener hours. So it more than doubles the amount of listeners you can have. You get 50 gigs of storage. You still have the music licensing. You get more advanced analytics. You also get a custom Alexa skill. So this will make it easier for folks to find you in Alexa. You still have the standard support, which means a 24-hour response. And this time you get 2 customizable streams instead of 1. Okay. And by the way, let's look at some of this fine print here. It says with advertisements packages, with advertisements packages include ads delivered by Live 365 with 50-50 revenue share in addition to discounting pricing. So you get a discounted price running the ads, and I'll show you what the non-discounted price is if you decide not to run ads. But there's also a 50-50 revenue share. Now, having said that, for 2 years before I went ad-free on Classic Guitar Rock Radio, I never once saw any money from the revenue share. So I think you have to have a lot of listeners before that's going to amount to anything, right? I mean, and yeah, so don't get your hopes up about that, okay? But see, these are just the different packages. This is broadcast 2 with ads. Let's look at broadcast 3 with ads. Now, when you start to get into 3, 4, and 5, what these are a lot of packages that like, terrestrial radio stations will buy. Every radio station you can stream, and a lot of them are using Live 365. And because they're already an established terrestrial radio station, they have a lot of listeners, right? And a lot of them will want to stream. And so these bigger packages are for, either really established, really successful and well listened to online radio stations, or these are full-on AM, FM stations that also stream, and they're using a package like this Broadcast 3, which gives you 7,000 monthly total listener hours, 100 gigs of storage. You still get the music licensing, pro analytics, custom Alexa skill. You get a custom mobile app, so you get more stuff, right? Makes sense. And it just goes on up. And once you get up to 4 and 5, these are like for full-on, established radio stations that are using Live 365 for their streaming platform. Again, they're just using an encoder to broadcast their programming on Live 365. They're not using Live 365's auto DJ feature or anything like that. They're simply Live 365 is a very attractive package to established broadcasting outlets because of the licensing. Okay. Because if I own an FM radio station, my licensing that I pay does not cover broadcasting online. I would have to have a separate license for that. That's why they use something like Live 365, because that covers their licensing. Okay. And you just kind of see the difference. Hang on just a sec. Got to respond to this really quick. Okay, hold on here. Okay. So you just see how each package gets bigger and bigger and bigger and gives you more and more listeners. Here's finally the top package, and now you're looking at $1,000 a month, 20,000 monthly total listener hours. So this is a full-on, for a radio station, right? A terrestrial station. Okay. Those are all the with advertisement packages. So for 99% of us, we will start out with the broadcast one. Well, actually, we'll start out with the free trial, right? You get it for 7 days. They basically give you a free version of broadcast one. That it just means they won't bill you for 7 days. If you decide in that 7 day period you don't want to do it, you can cancel it, and they won't charge your card, right? So you get a 7 day free trial. The other option, and here's what I decided to do with both stations, is I went with an ad-free package, no ads. The only difference is you get all the same stuff. You get all the same features. The only difference is because you're not playing 4 minutes of their commercials an hour, they charge you $20 more a month. Well, $20 at the basic package. It's a little more than that as you step up. So like I said, I started with the broadcast one, and from month to month, this might change. If I run out of listener hours, it will automatically bump me up to the next program or package, and then we'll just prorate the difference. So far, I've never had to bump up into broadcast 3. That's my goal. I would love to have to go to broadcast 3 because that means I have a lot more listeners, right? But all of this still the same in all of these packages. The only difference with ad free is I'm paying more. So like, remember broadcast 5, if I have a full on radio station, remember it was $9.99 with ads. It's $1,330 if you aren't playing their ads. Okay. So obviously they're charging you more if you aren't running their ads. Okay. One other thing. Let's read these notes down here. I didn't read this on the last one. All packages except for the non-copyright ones cover your listeners in the USA via ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, Alltrack, and Sound Exchange. In Canada via SOCAN and ReSound, and in Mexico via SACM and SOMEXFON. So those are all the agencies or licensing bodies in North America, right? Canada, US, Mexico. They cover all of that for you. And guys, think about this. Look at my, well, let me just show you. Because I still have people that don't understand how this is working. Live 365 is paying the licensing. Okay. Think of it. They've got thousands and thousands and thousands of radio stations. And I'm just showing you this so you see what I'm talking about. Okay. Here, and I don't know if you'll see it, if you can kind of see it, but here's my link. Here's my link for Classic Guitar Rock. This is the link I can paste anywhere and send it to anyone. Everyone on Live 365 has a link that starts with the Live 365 domain name. Okay. Live 365 owns the licensing that all of these stations are using. That's how it's economies of scale. It's volume. It's why Walmart can charge less than everyone else, because it's volume. They sell so much stuff. They have so much buying power. Their prices are lower than everyone else. This is exactly what's going on with Live 365. Okay. They have agreements with all of those licensing organizations. They pay all of that licensing. And then what they do is they then pass that cost on to us, all the other people, all the people with radio stations on their domain. Again, all of our stations start with live365.com, right? We're on their domain. So then they are then just passing that cost on to us. So the licensing bodies would go after Live 365 because it's their website, it's their platform. Okay. And then again, let's go back to these packages. Let me go back to these packages again, right? Okay. a broadcast one package, you don't have a whole lot of listeners, right? So they're not charging you as much to cover that licensing. That's the biggest part of the price you pay is the licensing, because that's expensive. So obviously, if I've got more listeners, okay, I'm going to pay a bigger share of that licensing fee. Does that make sense? I want everyone to understand that. So if you are going through Live 365, the licensing is covered. Live 365 is paying for all of these plays that take place on their platform from all the thousands of stations that are on their platform. And then they just pass on that price to each of us via whatever package we are paying for. The more listeners we have, ultimately, the more we pay. And that's because there's more of a cost for licensing the more plays there are. Hopefully I explain that okay, and that makes sense. Okay. Because here's the other thing I want to show you. If you don't need licensing at all, let's say you're going to do all talk, all sports. Right here at the bottom, it says, see our non-copyright packages for talk and sports radio. Now look at the difference in price. If I don't need licensing, look at how cheap it is. This is with no ads. Let's go to the ad. If I'm willing to pay their network ads, look at this. That shows you how much licensing is. You go from $19 if you don't need license up to $59 if you do need licensing, because licensing is the most expensive part of running an online station. And Live 365, again, because of buying power, you can get the licensing piece covered way cheaper using them than if you tried to do it a la carte. If you have your own domain and you're trying to run your own station and negotiate all your own licensing, I guarantee you can't do it all for less than $59 a month. Tell me I'm wrong. If someone knows of a way to get licensing for less than $59 a month, all the licensing you need for North America, let me know, because I haven't found it. Because if you start looking at individual prices for just BMI, just ASCAP, just Sound Exchange, each one of those is probably going to be $59 a month, right? So to me, it's a no-brainer. That's why I use Live 365, is that licensing piece. But if you don't need licensing, look at how cheap it is. $19 a month. Okay? $19 a month. If you don't need to play copyrighted music or copyrighted material, it's $19 a month. You get 25,000 monthly total listener hours, 30 gigabytes of storage, unlimited bandwidth, live and relay broadcasting. You get a lot of stuff in the non-copyright packages, right? But you don't have licensing. Okay? So if you're a religious talk station, if you're all talk, if you're sports talk, and you don't need licenses, this is a pretty good deal. $19 a month for your platform. So that's the math you got to do in your head. That's why Live 365 is a total no-brainer. I've mentioned before, I really like radio.co, but they don't handle licensing. If I was going with radio.co, I think their basic package starts at $39 an hour, but then I'd still be on the hook to get my own licensing. So I'd probably be looking at $250 a month or something once I get all the necessary licensing. And here's another licensing headache. Because there are different agencies, just because I pay BMI doesn't mean I can play everything, because some artists aren't BMI, they're ASCAP, right? So you basically have to get all of the, you have to get licenses from all of those various agencies. Okay, man, that's a headache. Just use Live 365 and then you're covered. Okay, so just wanted to talk through that. Hopefully that helped to explain some of that. And how do I stop sharing? Okay. But I've had a lot of questions about that. And that's how that works, right? If you don't need licensing, you don't have to get it, right? You'll spend a lot less money, but 98% of us need licensing. And here's the thing, guys, maybe you've got a talk station and you aren't going to be playing music, which is great. But make sure that you aren't playing bumper music that is copyrighted material. You're really limited if you don't have licensing, because none of that incidental music, uh, it still needs to be licensed unless it's complete AI generated, copyright free stuff. And you can find that stuff's out there. So it is possible. But most talk stations, if you notice, they will still play copyright material, their bumper music and music you hear in the background and stuff. They probably still pay their music licensing. But if you can pull it off without using any copyrighted material, good for you. It's going to be really cheap. Okay. Hope that helps. Shoot me an email, radiovalleymt@gmail.com, radiovalleymt@gmail.com. Love to hear from you. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.